All right, hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. Today I'm going to do a video on trying to be consistent so you can build retention within your players, the ability for them to retain information from day to day, week to week, game plan to game plan. Make sure you check out some of our partners, Dome Hats, headwear company we use with Play Fast in the school I'm currently at. This is our newest Play Fast snapback hat. We got a giveaway going on Twitter right now, so if you check out Coach Mac 8740 on Twitter and you answer the question and retweet, you have a chance to win this exact hat. Baker Sporting Goods company that makes coaching shirts like this for us, our coaches gear, our sideline gear we get from Baker Sports. They do our players spirit packs and gear that we wear under our uniforms. They also distribute our uniforms, so check them out. JustPlayFB, it's the software I use anytime I'm going to do a webinar, speak at a clinic. Anytime I need to draw something and generate something on a computer, I'm always going to use JustPlayFB, so check them out. GameStrat, sideline replay system we use. If you're looking for highly reliable, highly affordable, make sure you check out GameStrat. Everybody that's made the switch has been extremely impressed with their support and their customer service, so check them out. DifferenceUSA, the ultimate striking machine, thousands of reps. You don't need a partner, nobody needs to hold a bag. It can go in your weight room, it can go out on the field. All you need to do is hook it up to one of your squat racks, or you can dig some posts and put them in the ground, cement them into the ground and put them out there. You get thousands of reps. Don't need a partner. Nobody needs all the hand shield or a bag. It's just you and the machine. Work on elbows in, thumbs up, proper eye placement, all the things you need to become an efficient striker. So check out DifferenceUSA. HighandTight ball security training aid that we use. It's instant auditory feedback, which builds the muscle memory of having the football where it belongs, high and tight. You need proper position, proper points of pressure in order to make the ball beep. When the ball beeps, you now know that's what it feels like, that's where it should be. And anytime you lose that and the ball doesn't beep, you know that you're doing something wrong, so check out HighandTight. StandPerfect, training aid that we use to build consistent, repeatable, reliable stances. If you want your left side offensive lineman in a certain stance, you put them on the ground. Kids put their feet in. You don't have to tell them 4-inch, 6-inch heel toe stagger. Put them in the ground where they are. Get them used to that. Get them used to where their feet should be, and then eventually it becomes an ingrained habit that they know every time that's the stance to be in. We use it with receivers, DBs sometimes. So baseball, softball, golf, a bunch of different ways you can use StandPerfect, so make sure you check them out. So if you guys remember, a couple years ago, we were a 3-3 stack team, okay, and we were split field coverage, and we were playing our 3-3 stack without a ton of movement, all right? We had obviously some add-on fourth stuff and then some 5- and 6-man pressures, but our base defense didn't involve a ton of movement, all right? And the thing that I liked about it at the time was we gave our kids a very simple and efficient manner to try and fit the runs that we needed to see. So the reason I've got 20 personnel drawn up is because this is what we see a majority of the time. Whether it's Y-off, 11 personnel or 20 personnel, we see this version of offense the most, so that's why I've got it drawn up there. All right, but in general, it gave us a consistent way with the 6 guys in the box to fit runs. And what we did was we tied the reads from the anchor and the backer behind him, the right backer, the end and the left backer, reading off the tackle. If the tackle blocks down, the anchor squeezes the B gap, we scrape exchange, all right, outside. So it was the way we used to play our 4-2-5 defense. We had open B gaps, so we scrape exchange, right? One of the things that the people don't like about the defense is you got 2 big bubbles or 2 open B gaps, and that can be an issue at times, and we did some things to take that away. But the thing that I liked was ends and backers had the same reads. All right, so if we get down block, we're going to try and spill the next thing that shows. We're going to try and scrape paint, replace, spill the ball to a free hitter. Okay, so if we got any tackle blocks that were out, then we played the C gap with the end. All right, we didn't allow them, we didn't 2-gap them, we didn't allow them to cross face. There were only certain scenarios we allowed them to cross face, but it was very consistent. If you get a base block or any block that's out, all right, keep your outside arm and leg free, keep your helmet in the C gap, and the backer will be responsible for the B gap. We moved the nose, all right, one side or the other, and the Mike was responsible for the other A gap. So the Mike, all he had to do is understand which way he's moving the nose, read the other guard. The other guard stays on that side, we're fitting the A, the other guard pulls, you get a pull alert, that takes us out of it, all right, and it was a very simplistic way for us to play. We had 2 hybrid safeties, okay, that had to play high on the roof, and they also had to play down, so that involved some teaching. We had a free safety that moved, all right, from side to side, so he had to call the passing strength. He had to be able to align the passing strength, call the passing strength, so there was a little bit more teaching there, but a lot of the pictures remained the same, especially in the box, all right? And that's a big thing that I'm going to be talking about in this video, because even though there were some schemes that started to give us issues, so some dart stuff where we would get a pull with a back block, all right, we get a tackle pull and a back block on the anchor. So now when our linebackers saw this inside release, all right, of the tackle, they thought they were going to scrape exchange. They thought we were going to squeeze, but then the guard started blocking us back. So then we had to make some slight adjustments to where, you know, breaking the plane in a down block and retreating in a pull is a little bit different. It was just like reading or seeing a pull alert. We had to get our left and right linebacker to get a little bit bigger picture to be able to see not only the tackle but also the guard. So on power, when we started getting pull away in that hinge block, we didn't just scrape exchange or scrape paint with the anchor or the end when we were getting power schemes. So there were some nuances in there. Nothing is perfect, but it was very easy for our kids. And the thing that we were able to do was we were able to get a ton of reps with those 6 in the box, working against 5 linemen and a sniffer, and working against zone kick, zone read, power counter, you know, ISO, the things that we thought we were going to see. And we were able to get a ton of reps with that consistent box and that consistent picture. And it really didn't change all that much for us. So like if we saw 2x2, the only thing we would do is we would remove, all right, we would remove the backer to that side away from the free safety so that we could play 2 read. So we'd remove that backer a little bit, and then depending on the splits or depending on what he felt like, he could cancel the B gap with a call to the anchor, or we could 2 gap the anchor and now say, hey, on any blocks that are out, you can cross face, you're going to play the B gap, all right, pretty much no matter what. If you get pass sets, now you can rush the edge. All right, so we allowed the anchor, if the right linebacker was removed, we allowed the anchor to kind of build in his own 2 gap stunts, all right, or open B gap stunts to where he could play base blocks and down blocks a certain way and pass sets a certain way. So that was a little bit of teaching, okay? But for the most part, because of what we saw time and time again, if we saw 3x1, okay, the box stayed relatively the same. We went to our normal 3x1 coverage, all right? So we played the nickel and the free safety, or at the time for us it was left safety because we didn't switch. All right, left safety, free safety. We X out the number 1, played 2 read. The linebacker played a palms rule off of the back, so swing deep of, it's 4 in trips, but when you take away that guy, it's still swing deep of 3. So he's playing the same palms rule. So when we did our half-line palms drills, they were getting all the same coverages that they had to see over and over again. And then the box would stay relatively the same. If the splits were too wide, we'd do the same thing. We'd take the backer out, and he would make a call and either stunt the end or let the end 2 gap so we could take away the B gap. All right, but what it got us to is it got us to a place in time where we were getting more reps with consistent pictures. Yes, there were things that gave us a few issues here or there, all right, but with the right players, it got us to where we had played some of the best defense we had played in the last 10, 12 years that I had been coaching defense. All right, so, you know, it helped. We had a Division I defensive lineman that went to Liberty, but outside of him, we had a bunch of other kids that were just good high school football players. You know, we had some tough kids, we had some kids that could run, but nobody else was a big-time player. Nobody else was a big-time scholarship player. Some of the other guys are playing small school football and doing some really good things right now, but it's not like we were doing it with all Division I recruits. So it was good for our kids. It was good because we couldn't find 4 down linemen. It was good because it allowed our kids to see pictures. Depending on the school that you're at, when you're dealing with 15, 16-year-old kids, you want the retention to stay as consistent as possible. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get things to say same as much as you possibly can so that the kids can get retention from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday to hopefully Friday and then again into the following week. When you make a bunch of changes at the high school level, depending on the types of kids you have, the type of school you have, the types of players you coach, when you make a bunch of changes week to week, game to game, what happens is when those things change, their ability to retain the information that you're now putting on them, the new information, the different information, their ability to retain it, if you can't give them the amount of time and the reps that they need, their ability to retain that information from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday starts to wane a little bit, and then you get sketchy in your assignments and your execution. And one of the things I looked at this year, we were playing tight front stuff and we were playing 3 high safety stuff, which I absolutely love schematically, absolutely love it on the whiteboard. But we struggled with it during the year, and when I went back and watched film, game in and game out, what I watched was we were so inconsistent in our reactions, in our fits, where we were supposed to be. All right, we didn't do a good enough job of teaching them where they needed to be, how they needed to be, why they needed to be there. And I think it's because, you know, systematically, the way we were doing it, it involved us. So, you know, if we saw 2x2, if we saw 2x2, we played the light box theory, where we played kind of a 3-1 box with a will walked out, nickel, all right, corner, safety, safety, corner. So now the will was walked out. So now the will's he's in a position where he's outside the box, he's reading through the tackle to the back to whatever he may need to read, all right, or however you teach those reads, you know, they can be taught however you teach them, but he's outside the box. As soon as it went to some type of 2-back or 3x1, all right, so if this back came back in here, all right, now what would happen is the willie would go back into the box with the mic. So if you had, this was the passing strength and your nickel's here, and now you got your mic and your will. Now the willie's back in the box, and now he's making reads from inside the box. Okay, so what, in my opinion, what started happening is because we had to move around a little bit more than we had in the past, it led to, in my opinion, a lack of consistency in our execution of assignments. And what I was starting to notice, it was because of the retention rate. So when we would make slight changes, either formationally or coverage-wise or whatever it was, even with some of our pressures, if we made slight changes and we installed them on a Monday of a game week, I could see where our kids were struggling on Tuesday and Wednesday to retain the information that we just installed on Monday because it was different from what we were doing. Okay, so when I started looking on film, I'm like, man, that's wrong, that's a line wrong, or a line wrong to that. And I started looking at it, and I started thinking to myself, how can I make this a little bit more consistent for our players? You know, on defense, you're always trying to keep the offense kind of off balance with what you're doing. You can't stay in the same thing. If you stay in the same thing all night long, you feel like you're going to get killed. There's got to be some change-ups. But if you're in the same thing a majority of the time, you know your kids should be taught well enough to be where they belong, and then the other teams either got to out-physical you or out-execute you. And I felt like there were a couple games this year where that really wasn't the case, where we were totally out-physicaled or out-executed. I felt like we were beating ourselves. So what I've really been studying the last couple weeks is using the tight front because we like it with our kids, because I like the fact that I can kind of dictate where I think the ball's going to go. I can kind of dictate how I think teams are going to try to attack it, okay? But making it more consistent to where we can get guys doing similar jobs all the time. So what I've been looking at is playing it, instead of a 3-3-5, playing it from a 3-4 system. All right, and going back to our old ways of possibly not even flipping sides with players, just leaving guys where they are and teaching them how to play certain sets and certain rules. So in other words, if you're a 2x2 and you got two guys removed, your Sam and your Jack linebackers are always going to be the swing deep a 3 player, all right, or what we used to call the curl push player, all right, 2 doesn't cross my face, 3 doesn't out leverage me. As long as they have 2 removed, they're always going to be playing that job in our base defense. You can add a backer away from the back, an inside backer, old-fashioned 3-4 principles. If you get 2x2, add an inside backer, right? So you can add a 4th if you wanted to, but the mic and the will stay in the box. The front will stay the same, okay? The nickel and or the Sam and the Jack will stay the same, and then your safeties are playing 2 read like we always play, right? If you get, you know, any type of 2-back sets now, the box stays the same. You can keep the Jack the same, and depending on what the set is, now you've got to make your choice on the backside to where, you know, if you're not sending the Jack, if he's still an edge player or a force player, what are you going to do with that backside safety? So you could look at possibly playing, you know, what we call Hawk, and playing him off that fullback to where, you know, now he's almost cheated to where he's somewhere over here close in the middle of the field like it's 3x1. There's number 3. Kind of like an old, you know, stress poach, whatever you want to, not, I know stress people use a different coverage, but poach, Gilligan, triangle, whatever you want to call him, playing 3 vertical, because now that's where that 3 vertical is. And now power counter, if you get power front side, he can be extra. If you get counter coming back, he can come back because you still have the Jack sitting over there, right? So we're not even talking about adding the jack as a fourth yet. We're talking about just seeing the same pictures. So if you got 3 by 1, okay, and it's all a matter of what you're comfortable doing, but if you got 3 by 1, the first thing I looked at is if I traded my safeties and I left the front 7 the same, and I traded my safeties in 3 by 1, so now that the left safety and the right safety has to come over, now those two guys play 2 read. We X out the number 1 by playing man. Those two guys play 2 read, and now that the X, essentially now that that receiver is out, the nickel to that side, or the Sam, or whoever it is, the outside backer to that side, is now playing palms, 2 read, swing deep of 3 rules, the same thing he does versus a 2 removed. Right? So if he gets a 2 removed, whether it's 2 removed or 3 removed, if you use this principle where you travel your safeties like I'm thinking about doing, now you get to a point where you've got a system where the nickel's the same, the Mike and the Will are the same in the box. All right, on the backside, you still have the jack to help underneath if he's a dropper. So you still have that old 2 for 1 adage, or 3 for 2 if they involve a back and you can get the Will and the hook there. So you still get all the same things you want to get, and you're making the pictures a little bit clearer for those front 7, the 5 in the box, all right? The 2 inside backers are basically fitting A to C, all right, which we've been talking about the last week or so. A to C, depending on flow, depending on what your reads and your keys are, and you're keeping everything as consistent as possible to get all the same pictures for your kids, because to me, when I look at it, and as a coach, if you don't evaluate what you're doing and take a hard look at how you're doing things and what you're doing and what you used to do well. I've been at the same school for 6 years. We've had some good years, we've had some bad years. So I have, you know, a history, a database, a collection of 6 years to go back and say, hey, when we were doing this, we were pretty good. Then we struggled when we did this. So I have a little bit better understanding on both sides of the ball, special teams, of what our kids can handle. So I should be able to go back and now evaluate and do the analytics on what we did and how we can help our kids. If you get a tight end, it's just old school, all right, for right now. And again, maybe some game plan adjustments. Maybe you got to walk some guys a little bit. But if we got a tight end and we just played old school 3-4 principles and he played a 9 and we played quarters behind him, okay, and we played quarters on that side, and now to this side we choose whatever we're doing to the weak side. Again, if the jack's not involved and he's an edge player, we can make this guy an extra player. We can put him off the fullback or the sniffer, whoever it may be. Okay, maybe we've got to walk the Mike and the Will a little bit to this side. Maybe we got to plus them over to the tight end side. Maybe the jack has to be more involved in the fold or the fit. All right, but even if I pull the linebackers over, they still have A to C, because I still leave a D-gap player here. I still leave a B-gap player there, or a B-gap player there, and a nose playing off the backside of the center. So now even if they're pulled, and let's just say for argument's sake, you know, our system was reading the sniffer when it's 21 personnel or something like that. Well, if they ran power and the sniffer stayed here, all right, we're going to get the Mike into the C. First thing you're going to look at is the tight end's going to block him down. We're going to be short a guy. Well, now we've got the Will free to play backside A to over the top, all right, because they're probably going to have to block the 4-eye there. We're going to try and double to get to the Will, but if we've got him plussed a little bit, all right, I think we can make that tougher on him. All right, if the sniffer were to go back the other way, now it's just almost like a pull alert. So if you got split flow or any type of action like that, now they know that he's got to go to the C. He's got to go to whatever A is open behind the center. So let's just say the nose was in the backside A. He's got that A. So the inside backers are playing A to C. The pictures are consistent. All right, if they came out in double tight, all right, now I can put the jack up in a 9. So the jack knows if he gets a tight end and a flanker, he can play a 9. These guys know that they can play quarters rules. So now I think I'm building something. There is no perfect defense that you can play the same thing to everything. There's always going to be adjustments. There's always going to be wrinkles. But the more you can keep it as consistent as possible, you have a better chance of retaining information and playing techniques. Because what also happens is not only do our guys screw up, you know, alignments, they line up wrong, or they do, you know, they line up wrong in a certain coverage or a certain front, or the backers don't plus or minus versus a certain look. What they end up screwing up even more is the execution and the technique, because you're constantly changing. If you're changing the picture so much that you're worried about alignment and what you're doing in formations, well, then you're spending less time on actually executing the fit. what the No's or the Four Eyes are doing, the Mike and the Will, the Jack and the Sam. If you can keep things as consistent as possible, at least this is just my thinking from where we've struggled and what we need to do, the more I can keep that consistent week to week with slight nuances and wrinkles, but not major overhauls, the better chance I have to get out on a practice field and come up with a plan in 2 hours. Because remember now, we had guys playing both ways. All right, so our numbers weren't real big. We had guys playing both ways. So now, during a game week, we're probably getting about a day and a half of offense and a day and a half of defense, with Monday being a special teams cleanup, rehab day, however you want to look at it. Day and a half on Tuesday, day and a half on Wednesday, Thursday walkthrough. So with that limited time with your defense, you had better have some things that have some carryover to them, and you better have some things that give your kids the ability to retain and understand information so that they can retain and understand the techniques involved. All right, because you have less time to spend with them. We don't have the same time as college or some of these, whatever, however you look at it. We don't have the same time to spend with them, so making changes and changing things up makes it a little bit tougher for certain kids at the high school level and certain coaches at the high school level. So I'm looking at this 3-4 deal with the tight front and the way we want to play coverages behind it, and I'm starting to think this is probably better for our kids than the 3-3-5 version we were playing, because I think I can get more consistency and then I can build more retention. All right, and that's just an honest evaluation of the kids we have and the coaching staff we have and the job that I did this past year. I feel like we didn't carry over enough retention week to week, and we weren't repetitive enough in what we were reading, how we were fitting, where we were going, so that our kids on Fridays would do some things and you'd be like, what in the world are we doing that? Or how are we getting beat by that? In this front with this coverage, how are we getting beat by that? And then you go to the game film or you watch it on the sideline and you look and go, well, that's how we're getting beat. We're nowhere near the fit that we worked on. We're nowhere near. And then you talk to the kid and he says, well, Coach, yeah, I forgot last week I thought we were doing this and then I thought we were doing that. So I found out that we need more consistency. We need clearer pictures. I just did a video on something, similar 3-4 stuff. But here's why. Because when I go back and study, when we were 3-3 stack and we weren't broken stack and we weren't 3 high safety systems, we played pretty solid defense. And the reason was we made it very simplistic and we kept the picture almost the same for almost every formation. Now again, first time you do stuff like this, people are going to come up and say, how are you going to defend that? How are you going to defend this? And then you're going to give your answer and they're going to say, well, I don't know, you should do this, should do that. And then you get right back to where you were. Well, if I'm going to make 15 changes to defend one formation that I only see 15 times a year, do I really want to be doing that? Or should I just find something that I can live in and say, hey, I think this is solid. I think there's a way that we need to maybe have something in or adjust a blitz path or adjust a four-man movement to help us a little bit more. But I don't want to adjust the whole thing because I'm looking for retention. All right, so hopefully this video helps you guys out. The one thing you need to understand if you have a bad year or if you're struggling, you got to research your own team first. You got to look at what you do and how you do it, and then look at why you think you struggled and look at why you think you were having a hard time. Then go out and research the things you want to research. So for me, once I figured out that we didn't do things week in and week out, I started thinking about our practices and what we were trying to do with each game plan. We weren't consistent enough week in and week out with what we were doing and what we were teaching. And then I watch the games and I see us, fitting things the wrong way, playing blocks or taking on blocks the wrong way, not getting the stimulus we want out of certain block recs, and then just watching it all unfold and go downhill after that. Because then the other thing is, once kids are not comfortable in what they're doing, they're going to start guessing. They're going to start hoping they know where the ball goes. They don't trust their keys, their reads. It's not working in their opinion. The more you can keep it consistent so that they can retain the information to be able to go out and say, look, this is where I am, this is home base, this is what I read. If you have slight nuances in one back or two back, or however you read, flow and fast flow, tight flow, split flow, full flow, whatever your system is, if your kids can do that a majority of the time and feel like when they go out on Friday, that's what they're doing over and over and over again, I think you have a better chance to at least try and out-execute or out-physical an opponent rather than your kids guessing every week or moving around every week. And that's a coaching deal. That's just us not doing a good enough job putting our kids in a position that they need to be in. So as soon as I figured that out, the first thing I started researching was 3-4 teams that are playing tight front, inside 4 eyes, nose, whether 2 gap or, usually 2 gap behind the head of the center. Mike and Will that are in the box consistently. Jack and Nickel or Sam that are outside the box consistently. You don't have to put a guy outside the box versus this set, inside the box versus that set. The more I started looking, 3-4 personnel is probably a better way to go, and that's where I'm leaning on going right now. But again, all because, not because of what I want to do, not because of what I like theoretically, because of what I watched us do and what I think we need to do to be successful. All right, so if it was up to me, I absolutely love the 3 high safety stuff. I think it's brilliant in a lot of ways. We struggle with it. We didn't play it very well. I don't know if it's good for our team. So that doesn't make it a bad scheme. It just makes it something that I don't think we should be using or we should be doing. So we're probably going to move away from that and more into a static 3-4 look that has a lot of consistency and the ability to repeat what we're doing over and over again. All right, if you're not a subscriber, click that subscribe button. Make sure you turn your notifications on so you know every time I do a video or I do something on YouTube Live. All right, make sure a thumbs up, thumbs down if you like the content or you don't like the content. It helps me understand what you like or you don't like. It helps me understand how to deliver the content a little bit better. As always, leave a comment. If you leave a comment about football, I respond, positive or negative. If it's about football, I'm going to respond. You're entitled to your opinion. I appreciate you watching a video, so I'm always going to at least try and respond to that comment. If it's a comment about a video that I can do justice to, I'll try and do that video as well. If you're still playing, good luck to you. If you're in your off season now like we are, good luck to you in your off season. Get your kids going, get them back in as soon as you can. Give them a little bit of a break and a rest, but get them back in. See who wants to be around. You'll figure out your players real quick in the off season. And research and get ready for that time of year where we get to be on the whiteboard, clinics, visiting staffs, talking, and not worrying about games on Friday and practice and everything else. So there's a little bit more free time, so enjoy it. All right, remember, you won't play well until you play fast. Thank you for everything you do for me, and play fast football, and I will catch you next time.